Hello, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I thought today we could talk about credit and how to establish credit, and then how to keep your FICO score as high as possible. And if you were wondering about that first thing that I just said, there is a score that is called FICO, and that is FICO. And I actually had to look it up to just see where that comes from because I wasn't really sure. And apparently in I think they said 58, there was a couple of mathematicians, I think from Stanford or something, who came up with Fair Isaac's Company. And Fair Isaac's Company was a method that they figured out to predict payment behavior. So they would use this for banks or other credit, cards and loan and whatever, to be able to predict whether a customer would be good to give a loan to or credit to. So it became known as FICO, and they score you based on some factors that we will talk about today. And basically, tell you if you are worthy of getting like a mortgage based on your credit score. So a very good FICO credit score, I should say excellent, is 850. That is like superb. A poor FICO credit score is 300. That's not so good. But generally anything over about 740 is considered a good score. So your goal is to try to get your score as high as you can. If you think that you're going to need to ever take out a loan for a house or a car, or even, when you rent an apartment, they will ask for your credit score. All those kind of, student loans. I think they ask for student loans if they're private. I don't think the government ones ask. So it's actually an important thing to have. And at first I felt like I'm not the person to talk about finance, and I've had a lot of people request I do budgeting and different finance. But just today, I had said that, and my son said, I think his credit score is above 740 or around there. And I'll tell you why it's not even better. But he's like, that's because of, you guys helped me sort that out. And I realized, yeah, okay, I guess I do know something. So I'm here to share it with you today, but I am not by any means a financial expert. This is just a jumping off point. So if you see something here, you want to investigate more, go to it. But also, if you have more information that you think would be helpful, you can politely say so in the comments. We all appreciate it. All right, so that's what we're talking about, is your FICO score. So the very first thing that you need to do when you're younger, or if you're a parent, you might do this for your kids, is to establish credit. And one of the factors that we'll talk about in a little bit that is used for scoring you is your length of credit. So establishing credit young is important, but also can be very dangerous. So that's the trick. So I believe once a child turns 16, a parent or grandparent, or actually I think anybody, it could be an aunt or uncle, can add that child on as what's called, I need a new pen, I think, an authorized user. And what that is, let's say this adult has a line of credit that they are paying off every month. It's a good secure line of credit. Then they can add people to it as authorized users. And if it's your own child, maybe you let them have the credit card and they use it and then pay it off and learn how to use credit by doing that. And that is great if you have two things: a parent who has got a card that they know how to use and pay off, and a child who will listen at 16 and understand they shouldn't just go charge everything. So, but I have heard of parents getting an authorized user card and using it for like specific, like anytime they go to, I don't know, the grocery store or something, and then they pay it off every month and the child never even gets it, but they are gaining that credit history time during that. I did not do this with my kids. I don't even know why I didn't. I don't know if I didn't know about it but anyway, but I do know people who have done that. I don't know how difficult it is or what the ramifications are of later on when you take that person off your card as an authorized user. Does that hurt their history? That I'm not clear on. But I do know that my credit cards are constantly asking me to add an authorized user as and they'll give me, I don't remember, $100 or something. So it does make me question it because whenever a credit card company really wants you to do something, you should always wonder about it. But I assume it's just to get more people using their card. All right, so that is one way to get a young person building credit. What we did with our kids is the year that they turned 18, because I think you have to be 18 years old, you're not allowed to open a credit card yet, even if you have a job, I don't think. But what you can get is called a secured, I think it's always called this, a secured credit card. And I believe what we did was on their 18th birthday, we contacted 2 credit card companies. And what you do with a secured credit card is you have to send them, the credit card company, I think ours was $200, and they set them up with their own card. It's not under the parent's name, it's under their name. And so you put basically a $200 good faith money on this card. And then I think for ours it was 6 months. They use the card and pay it off every month. And that's the key. You have to be very good about it. You have to make sure you always pay it off. And then after the 6 months, they send your $200 back to you. And you can use that credit card. And so that's a way to get a card if you're under 21, because most credit cards you can't get until you're 21 years of age. But I think this is what has helped my kids get really good credit at a young age, is because they started their accounts when they were 18. But the other thing that you need to know is that it's really tricky when you're 18 to remember to, 1, pay the cards off, and 2, not think you're rich. The minute you get a summer job doesn't mean you start using your credit card too much. And we'll talk about that too. It's very disciplined. Remember that mathematicians came up with this whole thing. So we need to use that against them to beat the Okay. So let's say at 18, now you have your credit card. There is a thing, what do they call it, where you get a job and then you think you have more money, so you spend inflation, I think it's called. You got to be really careful about that, because the real danger of credit is thinking it's free money. It's not free money. It's not free money. So only put on that credit card what you know you can pay off. But then that comes to something else, which is called utilization. So you want to keep the amount that you put on a credit card. Let's say you have a $100 limit on your credit card. This is how much credit they give you. They say you can spend up to $100. Well, really, don't ever spend more than $30 on that credit card, because that is your utilization of the card. And if you go above 30% utilization, that is a big no-no. They say, we take points off your score. So you never really want to go above 30% utilization on your card. So whatever spending limit they give you, or credit, you want to make sure you're staying at 30% or below. Okay. I should probably go back a little bit. Let's talk about. So one of the, payment history. Okay. I have some things here. Hold on. Utilization, which we just mentioned. All right. So these are factors that lead into your FICO score. Length of credit, which we talked about. So really, as young as you can, you should start. I know it sounds crazy, because having a credit card is a very dangerous thing, and not everybody should have one, because some people think that having credit means free money, and that is completely untrue. So you have to be, it's tricky. It can destroy you financially if you aren't careful with it. But if you use it smartly, it can help you a lot in, getting apartments and getting homes and cars, whatever you need. Okay, so the first thing you want to try to do is get length of credit. And what that really means is, like I said, opening a credit card, as young as possible, but also being educated on pay that thing off every single month. It's not free money. It is not free money. But then also, when you walk into, a great example is Kohl's. Every time I go into Kohl's, they go, you'll save 20% if you open a credit card. Well, you might save 20% today, but if you don't shop there very often, that's a very dangerous thing, because two things can happen. They could pull a inquiry on your credit, and that can work against you. But also, if you have this card you opened when you were 18, and then you opened another, let's say you opened two cards when you're 18, and then Kohl's catches you when you're 24 and says, hey, open a card. And then when you're 26, Target talks you into a card. And I'm not saying not to get these cards, but I'm just saying, so now you're 27, these are your longest active cards, but you have these shorter ones. So it's sort of, now I'm not sure. I think it sort of averages out your length of credit, but definitely these help you. So do these actually hurt you? I'll tell you how they do hurt you for sure. Is if you have too many lines of credit. If you at 19 went to the ear piercing place and they talked you into a card, and then you went at 20 and that place had a free t-shirt, so this is too many lines of credit. You really want to have like 3 lines of credit. Um, anything more than that can start to work against you. And lines of credit can be car loans, credit cards, mortgage. So you don't want to have too much of this. Now I admit I do have like a Target because they give you 5% off and I shop there all the time. So there are some store ones that you might want, but you don't want all of them. Okay, anyway, length of credit. So yeah, so opening them as early as possible helps you with your credit score. And this is actually my one son who has a very good credit score. The one thing that's working against him is his length of credit because he's still very young. And so even though he opened it at 18, it hasn't been long enough. So the sooner you open it, you get that length of credit. Okay. And then, let's see, we were talking about inquiries. Okay. That would be like how I told you Kohl's, they might pull a credit check on you. The same thing, like if you go out apartment hunting, you might want to kind of make sure you are interested in that apartment before you let them pull a hard inquiry on you, because those can work against you too. Because then with the FICO guys who are predicting your payment behavior, if they see you're pulling a whole lot of inquiries trying to get loans, even if they're not always because of that, sometimes they're just checking your payments, but they assume you are pulling stuff because you need loans. That can lower your FICO score. So be a little careful about hard inquiries. You can ask them what kind of, check they're going to do, but if it's like a hard credit check, that can affect your score. Let's see. Okay, total accounts. That's what I was talking about with, you don't want to have too many credit cards accounts. So every store you go into now says open a credit card, with this hotel or this car oil change place, or, you don't really want to do that because you don't want to have too many. And I've heard 3 lines of credit is really a good amount. So be careful with that. Utilization is, you only really want to use 30% of available credit. Like I said, so if you have 100, you only want to use 30. And we can talk a little more about that. Actually, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. Let's say you have a low balance credit card. Like $1,000. So they're offering, they say, okay, we give you a credit limit of $1,000. So I should only spend $300 on this card to keep it within my utilization. But this week, I had my car breakdown, and they are asking me for $900. But I know I'm going to get paid on Friday. So you can go ahead and, okay, this is a little tricky. So make sure look at your credit card statement. But you could put the $900 to pay for it as long as you pay off this balance before the statement date. And I noticed on my card, I think it was called closing date. And this is different from your payment due date. Because this is when your payment's due. This is when they actually run it through the credit. So if you pay this off before this, then it's almost like it didn't happen. But this is where, if you really start to analyze these things, you can go, okay. So like for my credit cards, like I said, I have a Target card. I know that they will charge, I think it's like 25% 5% interest if you don't pay off a Target card. So you never let a balance stay on a Target card because it's ridiculously high interest. But I have the card because what they offer is I think it's 5% off all your purchases. So anytime I shop at Target, I use the Target card, I get the 5% off, but always pay that card off. So credit cards can save you money because a lot of them have, those kind of offers. Even the not student one, but the secured credit card that I talked about that, the young people can have. Even those, I think, had the ones that my son said had 2% back on gas in restaurants. So, if you're smart about it, it can actually sort of work in your favor. Okay, so utilization. And then this is the big one, is payment history. So if you miss a payment on your credit card, if you forget at the end of the month to pay it, sure, it just goes over to the next month and adds interest. No big deal, right? Except that it's a huge big deal because that really works against your credit score. That is a major factor. So what I did with my kids and myself, actually, is you go into your credit card account, your app or whatever you have, and add automatic monthly payments. And it doesn't have to be for the full amount, just for the minimum due. And that will just make sure that you don't miss a payment, because a missed payment is really bad. So this is set up on the account, but I always go in before this happens and pay it. So I know my account's been paid. But just in case like some crazy thing happens and I'm not there to pay it, the minimum will get paid and it won't affect my credit score. So definitely do that. So your payment, actually, hold on, let's do this. I got this handy bowl here. All right. So I'm going to figure this out, do you think? So assuming that here to here. Okay, this is 100%. This is 50. So I am going to try to do 35. So we know 25 would be here. Okay, 25 would be here. So 35 would, well, halfway would be 12. So it's going to be further. It's going to be like here, right? Does that seem right? I need my center. All right, so this is 35%. And then 45, 50, that's 15. And then I need one that's 30, so that's 25. We'll go 5 beyond that. And then 10 and 10. Okay. All right. So 35% of your score is based on your payment history. This is making payments on time, not skipping payments. 35%. Okay, so the next biggest one, 30% of your FICO score is based on utilization, which is making sure you're not using more than 30% of how much the card is actually given to you for. So if they say your card credit limit, spending limit is $10,000, you shouldn't be spending over $3,000 on that card. So those are two biggies, right? The next biggest one is 15%, and that is your length of credit. So this is why it's kind of important to set it up as young as possible, but only if you understand that it's not free money. Don't take out more debt than you feel you can pay off. And even if you by that month, because it will slowly creep up on you, and we can talk about that too. All right. Okay, inquiries. I can't pick it up. It's stuck. So 10% is like the credit checks, inquiries on your credit. That's a weird one, isn't it? It feels like, why should that matter so much? But I guess mathematically they've looked at it, and people who are asking many times for, it kind of means you're asking for loans a lot. That's what they base that on. And then 10% is total accounts, which is like the number of accounts you have, the mix of accounts you have. So this one I'm still a little, some of them obviously I'm still a little confused on, but this gives you an idea. So really, payment history, making payments on time, not missing them. So set up, no missed. It's important. That one will really, that's a biggie. So set up that minimum due at the very least, so that you know you didn't just accidentally miss it because you were on vacation or something. And then the utilization, don't max out your cards. If you have your cards up to their limits, that's really going to hurt your credit. Now, I am not even talking to you about how to pay off huge credit card debt, because the only way to do it is a kind of another video, which would be budget. You just have to really get, tough on your budget and look up. There are some things that are necessities. I don't know how to spell the word necessity. Is that right? Necessity. And then there are your needs. What's the difference? And then there are wants. You almost have to cut these out for a while until you pay your stuff off. I mean, there are other things you can do. You can contact your credit card companies and politely ask if they can set you up with a 0% on future purchases for a certain amount of time, or on transfer. And so you could transfer your debt to the 0%, and or even maybe they make it lower, but to just try to pay it off at the lowest percent you can get. I mean, sometimes you can just call and ask, and they'll lower your interest percentage. Because what happens is you owe, $1,000, but then if it's 16% interest, the next month you owe more, and the next month you owe more, and it just compounds. And pretty soon you're only paying interest, and you're not even paying. So you really got to call around. You can try getting in touch with a call they oh, my brains. Ugh. Credit union. Whew. Sometimes they have good interest rates that you can move your accounts into. It's tough. You gotta like really buckle up. But if you're just trying to raise your credit score, you have to just look at it as a game. You know, I mean, anytime they're giving you like a 0% interest for a certain amount of time, they are doing that hoping that you just keep charging and not paying it off, which is an okay tactic if you know you're going to be able to pay it off and you don't overcharge because of that 0%. You see what I'm saying? So like you can use that as a tool. You keep the money on the 0% and keep your cash in a high yield saving account, making the interest, and then pay it off. But you have to know your, what's the word I'm looking for? Careful enough that you can do that and you're not just spending money on things you don't need. Because 0% interest isn't free money. It's just not. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about that. Like I said, I'm definitely not any kind of expert on these things. Just chit-chatting, really. So definitely spend some time studying it. But if you're like a younger person and you're like, why is my credit no good? I just want to show you this is the basics. This is what they're using. This is how they judge you. So not overspending on your credit card, paying the credit card on time every month, not having too many credit card accounts. So don't go open everybody who says you get 10% off today if you open an account. Just don't do it. Just say no, thank you. Not having too many. Of course, if you're renting an apartment, sometimes you have to. So those only last a short time. They're looking more for if you're like going to your bank and asking for a loan every month or something like that, you know. And then length of credit. Well, that's a tough one because if you didn't do it while you were young, you know, the best time to start is today. Yeah. Oh, you know what else I was going to say? The cards that they give you when you open a bank account, you know how they give you a card that looks like a credit card? It could be like MasterCard or Visa or something. It's a bank card. That is called a debit card. That does not help your credit score. That's a separate kind of card. And I am actually, I don't know, this is just personal. I don't know if this is like a real thing, but I kind of told my kids, just stick with the credit cards and pay them off. Because the debit card, if you use it and you made a mistake or whatever, you know, like you, and this is, I'm trying to think how to say it. This is for like let me just give you an example. When my kid was really young, he opened a bank account because he had a little part-time job and they gave him one of those. And I can't even remember exactly how it went, but he had so little money in his account. I mean, to a kid, it seemed like a lot. So he had like $20 or something. Well, he had maybe it was more than that, maybe it was $30. But he had like a Xbox account or something. So it automatically took out a certain amount at a certain time of the month. But he had printed up his thing and saw how much money he had. So he went to the 7-Eleven and bought a slushie, and then he went like to the movie theater and bought something, and then so but he didn't realize the auto payment went through, like, I don't know, before he printed that thing that showed him how much money he had. So they ended up charging him for each overdraft $15, and he had like 4 overdrafts. So now his account was like in a negative state. I don't know. So he went in, and it was a local bank, and they forgave it, but that was a lesson learned. But the other thing with the debit cards, if you use it at a gas station, they put I forget what they call it, but there's like a $90 like hold on the card because it's debit. It's some weird thing like that. So I don't know. And also, I just feel like if anybody steals that number, that's your bank account, you know? So I'm leery, what's the word I'm looking for, of debit cards. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, so there you go. I guess that's it for credit cards. I can't think anything else. Please, if you have any other, probably smarter thoughts than I just gave, throw it in the comments. Or, yeah, it's tricky. I mean, don't let yourself get in credit card debt, because that, I've been there, and it's not a great feeling. So do what you can to cut your expenses in any way possible and pay off credit card debt, because it's not good debt. You have to have credit cards to get the FICO score, but you don't want debt on credit cards, because it's like mortgage debt is different than credit card debt. Sometimes you end up with all this debt on credit card and you have nothing to show for it, and that's the difference with a mortgage. At least you have a house to show for it. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, I hope that was semi-interesting to some of you. I will think about budgeting. I've never been a budget person. Like, I don't write it down. I'm not that organized. I just don't spend money. I'm just very frugal. But I realized maybe I am a budgeter, and it's just all in my head. You know, I don't write it down, but I know it just because I've been alive a while. I don't know. Anyway, I had taken this compass out to make this, but my pen doesn't fit in it. It's too narrow. Someday I'll do a video